All right. Thank you guys so much for joining us this afternoon, and welcome to E3 Alliance's webinar, A Beginning They Won't Forget, Designing a Meaningful Start for Staff and Students. Before getting started, I wanted to let you know that we will be providing a PDF of the slides with links to the resources at the end of today's session, so stick around for that link in chat. In addition, all registered participants will get the slides, the recording, and the resources from today's webinar in a follow-up email later this week. If you have questions throughout, please use the Q&A feature and we will answer a few questions toward the end if time allows. Also, please engage with our social media platforms, tweet or post that you're attending today, and please remember to tag E3 Alliance. E3 Alliance is a nonprofit based in Austin, Texas, whose mission is to transform education systems through data and collaboration so all students succeed. At E3 Alliance, we support school leaders to build systems for culture, instruction, and leadership that make their work more effective and more impactful. Leading the learning today is myself, Amy Havert, and Allison Duran. Both Allison and I have previously served students in multiple roles, from teacher to school leader, and now serve as coaches and thought partners for those working to make change on their campus or in their district. Today, we will share why leaders should focus on culture at the beginning of the year and how to create a meaningful start for both staff and students. We'll also share ideas for how to keep it going throughout the school year. And remember, the slides and resources that you're about to see will be provided at the end of the presentation and in a follow-up email later this week. Let's begin with exploring why a strong start matters. Here's what we know about a positive start to the school year. A positive school culture provides a safe, inviting, supportive, encouraging, and inclusive environment for students and staff, which in turn allows students' academic performance to evolve. Just take a moment to reflect on that. For educators, summer is a time of hope and fresh starts. We get a clean slate for the new year. Everything that we envision for this fresh new year has to start with a positive school culture. How do we begin to get that positive school culture? It's something school leaders design and plan for now. If you're joining us today, you're probably working throughout the summer, dreaming big and making plans for your new year. But why is focusing specifically on the start of the year so important? It's important because within moments of arriving somewhere, you know it's somewhere you want to be. Your clean slate, your fresh new year starts with the first impression of your staff, the first impression your staff and students get when they walk through the door. And this is something we have to think about well in advance, because as soon as your staff, students, and families walk through the front door, or even interact with your school online or virtually or through summer communication, they know it's somewhere they want to be. We need to think about and plan for these interactions with this attitude in mind. Campus culture and climate is the foundation of all campus systems. So you definitely want to make sure it's a priority this year and every year. Remember that everything we envision for this fresh new year has to be built on this strong school culture. And we know that culture eats strategy for lunch. Without creating a meaningful start that builds that positive culture from day one, all the efforts we are putting in place for improvement, for supporting students, for equitable practices and more will not fully succeed. So again, really thinking about how to get the year started on the right foot so that you build that positive school culture is important. So now that we understand the importance of a strong start, let's explore some strategies that you can implement to get this work done with teachers. The first interaction between school leaders and staff begins even before their first day back on campus. Think about sending a welcome email in July with updates and information that will ensure new and returning staff feel they are in the know. Transparent communication is one of the biggest factors cited in culture and climate surveys. Begin communicating well in advance so that staff know what to expect when they return and they're excited about the upcoming year. All school leaders know the stress of having to squeeze an abundance of essential information and training into just a few days at the beginning of the year. While this content is obviously important, take time to create a meaningful moment on the first day staff are all together. This experience is the start of building a sense of belonging and teamwork that will continue to grow and reap benefits all year long. Plan an activity that's fun and collaborative while also reflecting your campus values. Consider planning a scavenger hunt using the app Goose Chase or other group games that staff can do together. Let me show you one example of an activity that you could try with your staff. For a meaningful first day activity, consider Act It Out. Make sure to include everyone on the campus: front office staff, teachers, admin, counselors, librarian, teaching assistants, everyone. Plan how to put staff members into random groups so they're interacting with others outside of their department or grade level. You could do this by giving everyone a sticker at their on the chair they're sitting in, or lots of other different grouping ideas. Assign each group one of your campus values and commitment statements. The group must plan a skit that acts out their assigned value commitment. Give the groups work time to plan and practice, then have all the groups come back together to perform their skits for each other. For example, a group might be assigned to act out the campus value of collaboration and the commitment that aligns to it. They might decide to plan a demonstration of the value and commitment, or a scenario where the value commitment is needed or shown. Skits can be funny or serious as long as the group plans together and they can make a connection to their assigned value and commitment. Here's an example of some acted out norms that you could share with the groups to help them design their skit. It may be helpful to give groups an idea, such as planning around a well-known character or a randomly assigned prompt to spark their creative process. The most important norm is to ensure that all group members have a part in the performance. This activity emphasizes the importance of your campus values while also building a shared experience that members of your staff will remember and go back to time and time again. It's moments like this that create the shared inside jokes that we remember for years to come. After the first day, plan for small, meaningful moments throughout all of those August back to school PD days. Be sure to calendar when these things will happen so you remember to plan for them and don't forget to implement them. You can also continue this process throughout the school year as well. These might be small things, as in just a quick get to know you question that staff answer at the beginning of a PD session. They might be similar questions that you use before or after coming back from breaks during various PDs. But the important thing is to make sure they're happening throughout this time and throughout the school year as you move forward. So here's an example of what some of those shared fun or meaningful moment ideas might be. These are all activities that are small, they don't take very much time, and they can be embedded throughout other PDs or meetings at the beginning of the year and for the rest of the year. We've provided this resource in a slide set with a different slide for each of the activities. So again, you'll get the link to this resource at the end of today's webinar, so you can take these slides and embed the activities that you like into your different sessions at the beginning of the year, or again, use them throughout different meetings you might have throughout the year. Don't forget to plan one more meaningful moment the day before students arrive. Build one last moment that brings the staff together to feel a connection and a common sense of purpose. This could be a mirror of the activity that you did on the first day, or this could be a completely new activity that's aligned to your mission and vision. You want the teachers to be inspired and challenged to create the same type of moments with their students on the next day when their students arrive. As you're planning for these powerful moments at the beginning of the year with your teachers, don't forget about that special group of teachers, your new teachers. These are both your first year teachers who might be new to the profession and any new teachers you have who are new to your campus but might already be experienced. For both groups, this is your first opportunity to bring them into your community and give them a sense of belonging and connection to your campus and the rest of your staff. Think about making their first experience memorable. This could be something like having a special entrance to the event. Maybe you organize some of the administrators and teacher leaders on your campus to make a spirit tunnel as they walk in the door. Or maybe you have special signs or a balloon arch, just something that immediately makes them feel welcome and that they feel you're treating their entrance as special. Make sure they have an opportunity to meet the team on their first day on their new campus. This could be meeting the administrators, potentially meeting the front office staff that will be there to support them when they have questions. If possible, this also could be meeting their buddy that you've assigned to them for the first year or meeting their department chair or their team leader. But make sure they have a chance to meet those important people so they know who to turn to with questions as the year goes on. Consider a team building activity for your new teachers. You really want the new teachers to connect with each other and see each other as a resource because they're all in this together for the first time. So having a team building activity will give them a chance to connect to each other, but also to the members of the team that they've met who are there as more experienced staff. And lastly, consider giving your new teachers a swag bag. So this could be some merch with your campus mission and vision or values, your campus mascot, definitely a t-shirt to wear on those Fridays when jeans and t-shirts are allowed. We know of one campus that actually collected t-shirts from previous years, either very gently used ones that teachers from previous years no longer wanted, or backstock that didn't get used in previous years, but collecting those previous t-shirts as long as the new one they had for that year and letting new teachers select a few of each so that they had multiple shirts to wear throughout their first few months of school. All of these things will immediately help your new to campus and first year teachers feel as if they're part of your community. In addition, think about how to very explicitly foster that connection and belonging. So how do you reach out to your new to campus and first year teachers with a pre-welcome? This could be assigning a buddy to them that they will have throughout the year and having that buddy reach out to them in email or phone call before they ever show up for the first day on campus, just to answer any questions they might have and make them feel welcome. Let them know that they have somebody to talk to on the first day before they meet everyone else. Another campus has found a lot of success with organizing a lunch bunch. That is that the principal or other administrators host a lunch one day a month for all the new teachers to join, so that they have an informal space to ask questions and share their experiences, maybe renew their commitment to the campus and their excitement for the year that they felt over the summer. And lastly, really think about the supports that new teachers will need throughout the year. These could be little things like remembering the copy code to the copier or understanding how to order supplies for a needed science lab. This could also be bigger things like someone to help support them in creating lesson plans according to your campus framework, or other things that might be ongoing support, but really thinking about how that support is in place for them and letting them know for day one how they receive that support or how they reach out for it will really help to foster that sense of connection and belonging and make everyone feel like they're a valued part of the team from the beginning. I'm going to give you just a moment to read through this quote. Relationships among educators define the culture within the school and the power we have to transform lives. So going back to our why is it so important to have a positive school culture, especially among the staff on your campus? The interactions and relationships among your teachers will multiply the power and the impact that any one teacher could have by themselves. So with this in mind, really consider these strategies that I've shared for beginning of the year relationship building with your staff. So I've shared some ideas for creating meaningful moments that will give your teachers a beginning of the year they won't forget. Now, Allison will share with you some ideas on how to design a meaningful start for your students.
Thank you, Amy. As we are planning for the new beginning of the school year, we need to think about not only what to do for our teachers and what they need in terms of belonging and connection, but also what our students will need. So let's take a look at some beginning of the year strategies specifically for our students. First, you will want to brainstorm with your campus leadership team prior to the school year beginning. This campus leadership team consisted of lead teachers, administrators, counselors, and a librarian to brainstorm different topics they thought their students needed prior to the school year beginning. This list would then become their curriculum for that beginning of the year curriculum that they were going to push out through advisories and then be reminded of throughout the year. Let's take a deeper look into what these topics are and how you could schedule them into the beginning of the school year. So I'll pause to let you skim the contents of this curriculum example. This example is from a high school planning to support students start to the new school year through a 3-day camp. The diverse representatives leadership team who developed the content and design of this camp wanted to be sure that there were opportunities for genuine connections, as well as building relationships and trust before we ever even got to the content and learning for the year. They developed this curriculum and a schedule for students to stay in self-contained layer groups, which consisted of their dragons, their students, during the first 3 days of school. Look at the topic list on the left side of the graphic, and I'll briefly paraphrase the content that would be covered in each topic. First, you'll see the dragon DNA. This is that culturally diversity and those appreciation lessons. Then they brainstormed that they would need the wellness workshop, which consisted of diet and exercise, stress management, also could include your mental health and your self-care. Next, you'll see the mindset study seminar. This campus already had a mindset curriculum, so however you teach mindsets, this would be plugged in during this mindset study seminar. And then there's the Dragon Way, which consists of that positive behavior structure or campus policies and routines that you need to go over at the beginning of the school year. So all of your dragons or all of your students are on the same page about what the expectations are. Then you'll see the community through communication. These are those restorative practices, the discourse training, and conflict resolution that they'll need throughout the year. And lastly is believe there is good or be the good, which is that anti-bullying content that they so desperately need, not only in confronting face-to-face, but also in our digital world. So now let's look at how this team calendared for this Dragon Camp. As you can see, this example goes beyond the first 3 days of that 3-day Dragon Camp. This leadership team purposely calendared for not only the events of that Dragon Camp, but also for maintaining that strong start by adding in those calendar days for advisory time to be used to build on those topics that they learned about in that Dragon Camp. So they were able to move through August and September building on those ideas. The team would then take this calendar to the task force or to a committee to continue calendaring for the year, to add in those additional events and those advisory activities to support the students and the staff in their culture and through these topics that we just looked at throughout the year. Now here is a look into what a Dragon Camp day would look like. I'll give you a moment to look at this example. Notice that this example is specifically for 9th graders at this high school. The needs of students at each grade level on your campus will differ slightly, so adjustments can be made for content and, of course, scheduling for lunches and any other movement or transitions. Teachers still will receive their conference time as students come together in a common area to learn from one of the designated admin or support staff on campus-wide expectations, which we call the Dragon Way. Those are going to be campus-wide expectations like dress code or campus policies that everybody needs to be made aware of. Also, notice that there's a time for them to learn as a layer, which is a small group of 12 to 15 students with a layer leader, which is one of their teachers. As well, there's time for them to connect with larger groupings of their grade level and as an entire school. You'll get the example in this shared slide set, and you can link to go in deeper if you want to take a closer look at each day. Now let's look at a few more beginning of the school year student strategies you could use for connection and communication to get students involved in their own school culture. First, consider visuals of connection. Visuals of connection are powerful evidence and reinforcements of your culture. These can be in the form of hand signals, which can be used during arrival or dismissal, also could be used in school assemblies, or just greeting each other in and outside of the school day. Or they can be used as a t-shirt with a school slogan. This can be that same slogan that is represented in all communication and social media postings. Another good idea is having a call response ritual. This, if you're using it frequently and with fidelity, can really become a strong habit of connection for your students. What if every classroom or every meeting started with the same call and response, like Falcons rise, and then everybody screams, above the skies. In that moment, they know they belong. Even better, you could couple the hand signal with this chant to make it even stronger. Don't forget to include students in the decision-making process. One way you can ask for student input is by emailing a survey and then doing a phone blast to parents for students to check their email and look for the link to the survey. Some survey items may include voting for the following. Maybe it's the theme of the school year or student events that you're thinking about putting on at the beginning of the year or throughout the year. And then incentives that you want to get kids involved in at the beginning of the year. Or it could be that hand signal if you don't already have one, or the call and response. Also, students are the best insight to all things social media. We have worked with schools who have social media teams, which is usually ran by a school yearbook club, who can run most of that social media account for you, with, of course, posts going through the adult sponsor. When looking for a sponsor for this club, look to your new teachers who grew up with social media. They most likely already have the skill set you are looking for. You might want the student social media club to plan things such as your social media branding or your hashtag for the year. Or with the social media platform, you can decide which ones you will use and which ones you'll post to, and at what times you should post to each platform. It's important to get a jump start on calendaring for August and September before the school calendar starts to fill up. You'll want a calendar in time for not only staff and student relationship building, but also relationship building between students. Part of that relationship building will be bigger events of shared fun. This might be a school dance, a lunch event, or maybe even an assembly. A good way to keep this work going is to ensure that you have a committee or a task force to continuously meet throughout the year to respond to the data and the needs of staff and students. This also means that you don't have to take on this workload all on your own. So as soon as you can put on the calendar, as soon as you can put on the calendar the events that involve staff staying late for family and community events, the better. One that would be a great one to add at the beginning of the year is a come to meet the staff cookout, where families can come and enjoy a hot dog and play a few games like football, or maybe even have a bounce house. And then you can advertise it to the staff when you email them, like Amy noted in your first email back to staff, so that they know that they'll have to stay a little later one evening, and then you can give them back that time on another day. All right, so we've provided in the resources today a list of a few activities which would be great to include in your Dragon Camp, or a resource for teachers, especially new to the profession teachers. So each activity right here is explained in detail so that teachers know how to plan for the activity and the time that it will take in order to put this activity into their classroom. So here's one of the activities that requires a little prep on the teacher's part, but can be, very little prep on the teacher's part, but it can be very powerful for students in learning about their peers, which is called the weekend recap. So they just spend 5 minutes really getting together and figuring out what they did this weekend and what they have in common and make connections with each other. All right. And then we'll go to so you can see there is a shared fun example. This is a part of that Dragon Camp. And if you notice, they have a dragon lunch. So they wanted to make sure that they built in that scheduled time for staff and students to build those strong relationships and shared fun. The school created that Dragon Family Fun Lunch, so they had a different schedule on Fridays to accommodate for this fun. The lunch begins with an opening from campus leaders to give expectations and provide an overview of the activity on that day and any rules that they need to be made aware of. On this day, they were doing kickball games. So they would give expectations about what to expect in that kickball game and how they can participate. On these days, teachers are required to join in on the fun as cheerleaders or as participants. And then the lunch ends with students returning from the fun to the cafeteria and then dismissing the regular way from lunch. Now, looking at this quote, it defines belonging as as being a part of a group while still feeling accepted for who you are. In order for students to feel that sense of belonging, we have to intentionally look at providing those opportunities for students to learn about how to have those conversations and build relationships with each other and with teachers in a positive way. So now let's look at how we keep this going. We want to make sure that we have a strong start, but we have to keep that momentum going. Keeping it going will allow you to inspire and connect throughout the year. Made all the more powerful if moments are created in October, December, January, and March, connected to the experience from the beginning of the year. The same is true when prior knowledge is activated with our students. Learning is more powerful and retention is more effective when it is built on previous learning. When you inspire someone and at the same time engineer a moment where they are feeling something familiar, reviewing or waking up a prior positive experience or emotions, the results are heightened. As well, if we experience things together and activate using familiar or reoccurring themes, this builds trust. As Michael Fullan tells us, relationships of trust are built by bringing back words and actions repeatedly over time. We need to build relationships of trust with our staff, students, families, and the community. So how can we do this? How do we keep it going? One of the ways you can keep these moments going throughout the year is to utilize that task force I talked about earlier. Don't think of this as another meeting, but how can you incorporate this into an already scheduled meeting, such as your first of the month faculty meeting, and then designate this faculty meeting specifically to that culture and building that culture. Here you can see an example of a faculty meeting outline where the team decided to divide into groups for part of that meeting. So this example had teachers grouped by reoccurring subcommittees, but you could also split up by grade level or by concerns that have arisen from parent, student, or staff surveys to come up with solutions. As you can see by this faculty meeting outline, the subcommittee task forces had designated topics to discuss. Also, staff members were strategically placed into these subcommittees based on their strengths and on keeping the culture of the school in mind. When you do meet as a task force, whether that be during a faculty meeting or at a different time, be sure to involve the right people. This could mean the teachers or staff that it involves. For example, if it's a 6th grade issue, you want to make sure that the 6th grade team is well represented in that task force. But you also want to make sure that this group is positive and solution oriented. You need people on this team whose strengths are problem solving and finding solutions, or at least keeping the group moving in a positive direction. All right, so let's look at some tips for keeping it going. Pay attention during the beginning of the year. See how people react. Ask for real feedback, and then make sure you listen to what people are saying. Use the calendar as a leadership tool for success. You know how busy everything gets in September and October and forward. Put calendar entries for when you'll need to insert moments for connection, inspiration, and culture building. Once these are on the calendar, engage fellow leaders in helping you plan for those moments and experiences. Don't leave them to chance. They don't have to be perfect or comprehensive. I will always go back to Maya Angelou's wisdom that says, people may not remember everything you said or did, but they will remember how they felt. Keep checking the pulse of your culture. Participate and observe in all operations of your school. Make sure you are in planning meetings with your teachers, even if you're not leading them. Listen for struggle. Have interviews and conversations with teachers, students, and families to gather input and inform your own awareness about the health of your culture. And as we close out today, just remember this. This is the beginning of anything you want. So when you're designing the start of your school year this year, consider what you want. What do you want for your community? What do you want for your school, your staff, and most importantly, your students? Each August, there is an opportunity for school leaders to set the tone and create the conditions for a school where everyone can engage and thrive. Take these ideas from today, collaborate with your team, and engineer those moments and opportunities for connection that will not only inspire your staff and it will impact your students from day one, creating that place where they want to be and that place where they belong. Now I'm going to turn it over to Terry and see if there were any questions coming in in the chat that we can answer.
Thanks, Allison. Some great stuff to think about. We did have a question just kind of about, this can be for you or Amy, but the kind of the limited time. A couple of people had comments about that and a question. What if you only have a day or two with your teacher specifically? So I guess, Amy, that was really the stuff that you share, but what if you're really limited on the amount of time that you have?
Sure, absolutely. Well, you can start by thinking of some things that you could do maybe in the background or in your environment to build connections and build a sense of belonging that won't take away your time. So this might be having a slideshow with photos from everybody's summer or their families, just playing on repeat in your meeting space as people are entering. A lot of times on PD days, we might provide a light breakfast where people can mingle for a few minutes before they get started. So this would be a great time to have some of those family photos or maybe it's favorite activities, your summer vacation, have your staff share photos and then just have them running in the background on a slide set during breaks or at the beginning before sessions start. Along with that same idea, you might build a space on your campus, maybe a bulletin board in your staff lounge, or maybe in a hallway where even your students can see, where you might have a board of family pictures that of different staff members, so they can share and connect, both seeing each other's families, but maybe also seeing things that they have in common, like activities or pets or things like that. So those are a few ideas, but also some of the ideas I shared can take very little time. So even if you don't have time to plan for, maybe an hour-long activity like Act It Out on your first day, you can definitely embed some of those smaller moments of connection that are in that slide set that we will share. Things that might take 5 minutes or 10 minutes that you can embed throughout the week, and doing things in a lot of different ways that way.
All right. Thanks, Amy. Also, while you were talking, I'm making a connection to Allison's section about keep it going. So if you like some of the ideas from today, but you can't quite work them into just before school, keep in mind you've got opportunities throughout the fall or the spring even to create these moments, right? That's great. Also, you had me at sharing food there, Amy. That's a good idea with food. We do have one more. There was a question, maybe Allison, do you have some ideas about a beginning they won't forget for like families or community events, things like that you can reach out with? Just a couple more ideas.
Oh, of course. I've seen where schools have put on something like for the first day of school, whether that be some type of selfie photo backdrop that students can come take a selfie in front of with their parents or whoever's bringing them to school, or if they're coming to school on the bus, they just grab a quick selfie. I've also seen where they have like a parade and they decorate their car for those entering or exiting for their student on the first day of school, and come through the car line and really show off their kid and showcase their kid. I've also seen where they've done some type of like family tailgating thing at the end of the day, kind of to bring everybody together for like a cookout or maybe it's a foam party. I've seen a lot of different ideas centered around that, as well as, same thing for kind of using for new teachers, but for new students, right? Or for those students that are new to your campus. So you can have like a t-shirt trade up day. So if they're entering as from a 5th grade campus to a 6th grade campus, 2 different campuses, they can bring an elementary school shirt and trade it in for a middle school shirt or middle school to high school. Or if you're registering that kindergartner, it's their first day, they get a shirt with registration, or they get that first day shirt. I've also seen some ideas where teachers are handing out donuts in the car line or at the bus drop off, just to make that first day extra special for students. So those are just a few ideas that came to mind.
Awesome. Thanks, Allison. I like what you described, and also there's some great ideas in the chat. But just thinking about it, sometimes it's not just about stuff, but about those moments and those rituals. So I like the ideas that y'all are both sharing. It does look like that is all the questions, which is great because we're about out of time. Before we do that, Allison, we'll go ahead and turn it back to you to finish out.
Absolutely. So this is going to be our next virtual event. So please join us on June 28th. It's going to be at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. We'll be sharing data and information on post-secondary pathways that lead to success. You can register using the QR code on the screen or by clicking the link that will be in the PDF of today's slides. And Terry just added that link into the chat if you're looking to register for that next webinar. And thank you for joining us today. We hope you were able to grab some ideas to build a great beginning for your teachers and for your students. Today's resources will be provided in that follow-up email along with that recording.
Also, Allison, I think we're gonna add them in the chat now as well.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Terry will be adding that link to the resources in the chat if you stuck around to get those. If not, you'll see them in the email as well.